voice actor panel. Obviously, many of you were here earlier for the Everyone panel, since you have your questions already prepared. Do we have our volunteers from earlier? Same volunteers? Stand up, where are you? Where are my volunteers? They're not here.
I volunteer.
You can't volunteer, no. Okay, fine. Didn't see this one coming. Well, for those of you who don't understand what's going on, who weren't here for the earlier panel, the way we're handling questions is you write the questions down on the index cards, and you pass them usually to volunteers, but in this case you pass them to the wonderful Tabitha St. Germain. We are also joined by the fabulous Britt McKillop. And I'm going to mess up your last name. It's Ralph Strike like baseball. And what folks might not know about you is that you are in fact the voice of Angel Bunny. They're thinking about it. They're figuring it out. You are the agent for pretty much, what, 75, 80% of the MLP cast? Many of you, I'm sure, came to his panel yesterday?
I'll have one, hold on.
Yes.
I'll get it.
Everyone enjoy it? I'm stalling for time whilst the questions are collected. What happened to my wonderful volunteers? Thank you. Alright, well this is enough to be getting on with, and if people wish to volunteer to help pass out the note cards and pencils, or to collect them when people have written the questions, by all means, I will love you. Thank you. Okay, here we are. There's water right there if you'd like it.
That's exactly like exercise.
All right then. Shall we get started?
Yes, please do.
Before we do that, if there are any children in the audience who would like to be a little bit closer to the action, if they'd like to come and sit up front so that they can get a good view of everyone, or not, you can stay where you are if you'd like as well, it's not mandatory. Small children up front?
Oh, here comes a gorgeous Luna.
Yes. Ah, here they come.
And here comes a rainbow duck. And here comes a spiky monkey.
Big round of applause for all the kids who turned up. Where did Bob go? Bob, next year we need to get some milk and cookies, I think. Put that line item in the budget. All right, while I have introduced these wonderful people, but while I'm sorting through the questions that have come in, I'm going to ask them a very broad one and see where they take it. I would like to know how you got started as performers. What first drew you to performing? And I'm not just saying voice acting, I'm saying performing because I know that you also sing, you do stage work. Between you, you've actually got most of the dramatic arts represented, so when did you first realize that's what you wanted to do, and what were the circumstances?
Well, Sven, I think you might want to answer this question, because you've been an actor since the old days in Sweden, and started the Swedish National Theatre as a water boy. No?
Oh, gosh. How I got?
How did you get your start?
How I got started was, well, I mean, I've been kind of singing my whole life, so I think my first love was music. And my sister and I started acting at a very young age, 2 and 4, and did musical theater growing up. And I think it was when we were about 13 and 15 that we decided that we really wanted to make a career out of it, you know, for the rest of our lives, and make that our career. So, yeah.
How many people in the audience are fans of a little show called Dead Like Me?
Such a fan. Totally.
Would you mind talking a little bit about your experience what it was like working on that while I stall for time organizing the questions.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I was in a show called Dead Like Me on Showtime, and I auditioned for that when I was about 8 or 9, and we did 2 seasons, and it was fantastic and very cool show. So if you haven't gone and watched it, you should. It's just fantastic writing and yeah, really great show. So I was just blessed to be a part of it. So yeah.
It's a treat now that it's all out on DVD. You can just watch the whole thing in one fell swoop. It's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
It may come as a surprise, but I was a little socially awkward when I was a child. So I really liked anything that was a bit escapist. I liked being in my imagination. So I loved being in the theater. My very first role was Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol. And also the little boy that said, "Boy, it's Christmas Day, sir." And and then I was kind of hooked, you know. I got laughs, I got the approval that I very much desired when I was a little kid, which can actually be the actor's disease as you grow up. But it's a great place to sort of prove it and let go of it and just not care about that anymore. So that's sort of how I got my start, was being in the theater. And I also loved to sing, and eventually I got sent on voiceover auditions when it started to become a thing in shows like Alf and Beetlejuice and the Super Mario Brothers and, you know, the early stuff, when you guys were all unborn.
Sure dang holes. Anyway, y'all talk amongst yourselves.
This is quite a dangerous question to ask, but I feel it needs to be asked. This is for Brit. How does it feel to be best princess? Hashtag shots fired.
Okay. Wow, well, that's an honor. Thank you to whoever said that. Yeah, that it feels pretty darn good. I have to say. Wow, go me. Go Cadence.
There was a question earlier, actually, in the earlier panel about Cadence and your favourite part of the process of bringing her to life. So what was that favourite part for you?
I mean, I've said this a lot, but I really do mean it. Getting to sing, getting to be the singing voice behind Princess Cadence. I got to do kind of a Broadway style voice. I don't get to do that often. I sing country music, so that was so cool. I felt like I really was able to bring her to life in the moments where I got to be her singing voice. That was very special for me. So.
And speaking of country music, you were at, with your band, It's One More Go. Yes. Last week you were at a music festival, if I'm not mistaken.
We actually sang at a pretty historic place in Nashville called the Grand Ole Opry. So we got to, we got to sing there, and that was pretty cool. And that will last me a lifetime, that memory, I think. So.
Since the writers earlier were plugging their books, are there any albums that you would like to plug, or any announcements there about upcoming work that all of these people can and will and should buy?
Well, you can go onto iTunes. I mean, we're on, you know, all the social media, Facebook, and
You've all got your devices. Come on, chop chop.
Facebook, Twitter, all that, and we have an album out. I'm not sure that it's available yet in the States, but we are on iTunes, I believe, so that's probably where you can find us. Our name is One More Girl. That's our band name, so my sister.
I think it's clear that you're all in a bit of a silly mood from the tenor of the questions that I'm getting here. But I'm obliged to ask some of them. So what would you do for a Klondike bar?
Is this a bar in the Klondike? Because for a bar in the Klondike, I would huggle there and cross a glacier. Evidently. But if it's this chocolatey, strange confection,
I didn't specify.
I might have to just pass it along. I'll pass that along too. I'm not really sure how to respond to that. Good question. Good. Excellent question.
Ralph, what would you have your clients do for a Klondike bar? What would you put in their contracts? Mike, do we have a...
Is this a contract to be the spokesperson for Klondike bars?
For them to be... Can you say a question again?
No, yeah, you're just messing about it. I think we'll move on to another question. Incredibly important to My Little Pony, though it is. This is an interesting question. Have either of you ever ad-libbed lines? Do you have any kind of control, or is it all very much stick to the script?
I have never ad-libbed a line in my life. I would never divert from the script. I would never say something that Over to you.
No, I generally stick pretty close to the script. I do, and I'm not very good at that type of thing.
Well, I like to improv, and if they let me, I sometimes do it anyway because something will just come to mind, and more often than not, Terry says that's just weird.
I have to say it's really cool to watch her in the studio. I'm just saying, it's pretty darn cool. Tabitha is pretty awesome.
Thank you. I'm gonna buy one more girls' album immediately.
There is one thing I can add, and I think for some of you that were at my panel yesterday, I showed Tabitha's demo, and one of the last spots is when she was the voice of Olive Oil. And it was quite funny because I was telling everyone the importance of preparation, and I still remember that day. This was back when we had fax sides, and Tabitha comes running in my office, and I need the sides for Olive Oil. I look at my watch, and her audition is in like 10 minutes, and I said, you haven't looked at them yet? And she goes, no. Zooms out, and then the next day I get the phone call, and who gets cast as Olive Oil but Tabitha, so the ad-libbing definitely works.
Yeah.
I think, given that answer, this question kind of goes without saying, but have you ever broken out laughing in the middle of a recording session?
I have never laughed at a recording session before in my life. I do not find this humorous, it's a job. I show up and I save my life and I don't bump into the furniture and I don't wear my hat so that they hit the microphone.
She's the one keeping us laughing the whole entire time. I'm trying not to laugh because I feel like I'm always seated next to Tabitha and I'm having to do this because she's so funny.
If you could voice act any character from any piece of media, who would it be? Dream roll.
I would like to play Bianca Castafiore in the Tintin franchise.
Tintin fans in the audience?
The opera singer.
Cute.
I would like to do something in Asterix. The stuff that I liked when I was growing up. Those books, the Hergé Metoine, French stuff. I'd like to do some of that.
Anything?
Dream roll. Any role you want.
Anything? Oh my gosh. Any princess from Disney. I mean, dream come true. That would be a dream come true for me. Never would happen, but
Never say never.
This is why you are best princess. You are a princess.
You're killing me. If you were stranded on a desert island and had one pony with you, who would it be and why? Parenthesis, no magic teleporting off or flying away, with a nice little drawing of a palm tree. I'm not kidding, it's right there.
Ralph.
I would choose Fluttershy. Because she would keep me calm, because I'd be panicking because I'm on the island. So she would keep me calm, so I wouldn't panic.
Fluttershy fans?
I'd choose Pinkie Pie because you don't.
I'd choose Sakura because I think she'd probably have the greatest chance of surviving with her knowledge of firms and plants. I like your organization.
Thank you.
Can Rarity say, "Oh, it is on"?
We had this question earlier, but I think we can revisit it. Whose question was that? Because that was a kid, that last question. Who wanted Rarity to say, oh, it is ah?
Oh, I think that deserves the best question.
So we had this earlier, but we should revisit it because perhaps the answers have changed in 3 hours. Which character is your favourite to play? Yeah, if you can or had to pick, which character is your favourite to play?
It changes by the minute. But I have to say, I really do
Enjoy the sound of my own voice. It's all I'm saying. Don't make me throw my best teeth at you.
Between, this is from someone with the name of Age 12. Oh no, that's your age, sorry. Do you prefer voicing Rarity or Luna more, and what was your favourite experience while voicing them?
I prefer to voice Rarity because because Luna changes. She's, well, you know, it's the moon. It goes through phases, and so in fact do the writers. So, and so I'm not always sure what the age is, or I'm not always sure of it, but I'm always sure of Rarity. She's at least I'm sure, and then I discover that the writers think different things, but that just all adds to the melting pot. I sort of think of her as a Miss Piggy of the pony world. So that's where my mind is. But you know, the elegance and so forth is lovely, but it's tempered by an inner pig. I think people are going to be leaving in droves in about a second. I should stop talking. Over to you.
So another question for you, Tabitha. This is from Mary, age 10. Mary, age 10, everybody. And this is a question about your favourite role, Granny Smith. Where do you get your inspiration for Granny Smith?
Well, I get my inspiration from the inner collapse of the bodily functions. I get my inspiration from the chopping yard. I get my inspiration from hay and apples. I get my inspiration from a good old choo-choo. I get my inspiration from deep in the bottom of a casket of apple cider by times. Tell no one.
Do you find that a satisfactory answer?
Oh,
Good.
thank you. Phew. I was so worried about being judged by Mary. Age 10.
This is for Britt. You've done VA, live action, and singing. Which do you prefer? And I think you answered that with singing, but perhaps not. No?
Oh gosh, that's so hard to say. Because yeah, I said before, music was my first love, but I mean, I can't even answer that. That's such a hard question to answer. I don't know.
Thank you. I've been handed a card by Tabitha St. Germain, who is throwing her co-guest under the bus. Scrawled on this card are the words, "Ask her to sing." Shall we encourage her? You could sing together.
Well, I did this a little earlier, but I'll do it again. This day was going to be perfect, the kind of day of which I dreamed since I was small.
Ralph, is there anything you'd like to sing?
That's why I'm not a voiceover performer.
What about you, Foley?
Yeah, Foley, did you want to sing a little something?
I'm good for it later when there's karaoke. I need the backing track. Are you kidding? That's a hard act to follow, folks. Would you want to follow that? No. My little pony, my little pony. Are you satisfied? You only get the one. Favorite episode?
Dog and Pony Show. I don't know. It's so much fun to be dragged into the mines by a bunch of dirty dogs and asked to dig up stones. Isn't it?
Did you have children in the audience, you realise?
Well, it did happen.
There was actually a question in here. They were quite keen on you whining if you would be so kind.
I take umbrage. Ladies, do not whine. This is whining. I was complaining. Complaining is completely different than whining, which I do not do.
So this is a question for both of you. How much experience in general acting do you need to really get into voice acting? How do you sort of bridge the gap in styles between the two? How does your approach differ between voice acting and, say, stage acting or film acting?
I mean, they're so different. It's so different being on a film set and being in the studio. I think it's quite a different experience. But I think they're both, I find that they can both be equally as difficult. Like, I work just as hard in the studio as I do live on a set. I think you put so much energy into it, and so